this is Michael Carlin with Equity Real Estate Luxury Group in Park City again. Back to the real estate purchase contract, REPC, section 2.1, payment of purchase price. The purchase price for the property is, mark that down, except as provided in this section, the purchase price shall be paid as provided in sections 2.1 through 2.1a through 2.1e below. Any amounts shown in sections 2.1c and 2.1e may be adjusted as deemed necessary by buyer and the lender. A earnest money deposit under certain conditions described in the REPC. This deposit may become totally non-refundable. B. Additional earnest money deposit. See section 8.4 if applicable. C. New loan. Buyer may apply for mortgage loan financing the loan on terms acceptable to buyer if an FHA VA loan applies. See attached FHA VA loan addendum. D. Seller financing. See attached seller financing addendum. E. Balance of purchase price in cash at settlement. Purchase price total of lines A through E. 2.2. Sale of buyer's property. Buyer's ability to purchase the property to obtain the loan referenced in section 2.1c above and or any portion of the cash referenced in section 2.1e above, mark 1, is or is not, conditioned upon the sale of real estate owned by the buyer. If checked in the affirmative, the terms of the attached subject to sale of buyer's property addendum apply. We're going to continue today into 3, since that's pretty much self-explanatory. Settlement and closing. 3.1. Settlement. Settlement shall take place no later than the settlement deadline referenced in section 24D, or as otherwise mutually agreed by buyer and seller in writing. Settlement shall occur only when all of the following have been completed. A. Buyer and seller have signed and delivered to each other or to the escrow closing office all documents required by the REPC, by the lender, by the title insurance, and escrow closing offices, by written escrow instructions, including any split closing instructions if applicable, or by applicable law. B. Any monies required to be paid by buyer or seller under these documents, except for the proceeds of any loan, have been delivered by buyer or seller to the other party or to the escrow closing office in the form of cash, wire transfer, cashier's check, or other form acceptable to the escrow closing office. 3.2. Closing. For purposes of the REPC, closing means that settlement has been completed. B. The proceeds of any new loan have been delivered by the lender to seller or to the escrow closing office. And C. The applicable closing documents have been recorded in the office of the county recording. The actions described in 3.2b and c shall be completed no later than 4 calendar days after settlement. So they leave that 4 calendar days because of holidays and such. So just make sure when you're doing settlement dates, maybe not do it on a Friday, because they could possibly, if you do it on a Wednesday, they could record either that Wednesday or by that Friday. If you're doing it on a Friday, it's most likely it could happen on the Friday to get recorded. But a lot of times it might go over into Monday. If there's a holiday on Monday, it'll go into Tuesday. So just keep that in mind under your dates. And 3.3, possession, except as provided in section 6.1a and b, seller shall deliver physical possession of the property to the buyer as follows. Mark 1, upon recording, or a certain number of hours after recording, or a certain number of calendar days after recording. Any contracted rental of the property prior to or after closing between buyer and seller shall be by separate written agreement. Seller and buyer shall each be responsible for any insurance coverage each party deems necessary for the property, including any personal property and belongings. The provisions of this section 3.3 shall survive closing. So sometimes people want to do a lease back, or just have some more days to clean things out. So just remember, closing, settlement signing is not closing. Closing is when recorded and funds are. So this usually applies to the buyer, realizing don't move in on Saturday if we're not closing till Monday or Tuesday. 4, prorations, assessments, other payment obligations. We'll get into that next time.